Hi, beautiful people at home. You are welcome back to Physique Fashion House channel. My name is Fola. We appreciate as many that has been subscribing to this channel and adding to the growth of this channel. Thank you very much. Or if you are yet to subscribe, do well to subscribe today. Thank you. So today I want to teach you how to make Princess Dart Bustier with a skin illusion yoke. Let's go. Here is the pattern drafting, and we'll be stopping this project at waistline, which is 17 inches. Now, to draft our Princess Dart Bustier, what we have here, we have our shoulder length here, 7 inches, 14 divided by 2, give us 7 inches. I have my armhole line 7.5 here. I come down with 1 inch for my shoulder slope. The wideness of the neck is 3 inches. I will later determine the depth of my neck. So this, we have 10 inches as our bust point line, 13 inches as our under bust line, then waistline of 17 inches. So let's get started. So the next thing we have to do now is to determine the darts. And to achieve that, on the under bust length, I come to this side with 2 inches. I do the same thing at the waistline. I come to this side with 2 inches. To this side, I come out with half an inch. I do the same thing down here in the waistline, half an inch. Then I connect it with a straight ruler. Connect it. Then the next thing I do is that I connect the bust point to the under bust. Just this way. I connect it here too. Yeah. So the next thing I do now is on the armhole line, I measure from the shoulder slope to this end. I'm having 6.5. So I get the midpoint of 6.5, which is 3.25. That is 3/4. Let me come inside. I want to get our armhole first. So I come in with half an inch on this mark. Then I use my French curve to connect to this end. Yeah, so that's my armhole. The next thing I want to do now is to get my Princess Dart proper, and to achieve that, I just come out of this midpoint. I come out with like 1/2 to 3/4 inch. I mark it, then I take my French curve just to connect it, just this way. I connect it to the bust point. Yeah, that is it. So we have been able to create our cup like this. So the next thing I do is to get the horizontal measurement proper. So the bust we are working with is 34. We divide it by 4, give us 8.5. So on this line, this is a chest line, we measure 8.5. Yes, we are having 8.5 here. Then we get our sewing allowance of 2 inches. Yes. So we come to the under bust. We get the under bust circumference. The under bust circumference we are working with is 26. We divide it by 4. When we divide 26 by 4, give us 6.5. So we measure 6.5 here. We return 2.5. We are having inside here. We return it 2.5. Then we get our sewing allowance of 2 inches. So on the waistline, we get our waist. The waist we are working with is 28. 28 divided by 4 give us 7. So we measure 7 on this line, 7 inches. we return the 2.5 we are having inside here, 2.5. Then we get our seam allowance of 2 inches. Then we just connect it straight up. We connect the under bust to the waist, then to the bust. You can, for the bust area, you can just add a 1/2 inch to your seam allowance, just this way. Instead of 2 inches, use 2.5 for the bust area. Yeah, so the next thing we want to take care now is the depth of our neck, because we are going to take care of the yoke part. So in that wise, we want to get the depth of our neck. First of all, we get the depth of the neck for the yoke before we get the depth for the bodies. So for the yoke, we'll be coming down with the depth we'll be using is just 2 inches. For this project, because that net, we want it to be high very well, so we're using 2 inches to come down instead of a basic 3 inches. So we just connect it. So that's why you are good to have a different type of cuff, so that you can use any one that is applicable to what you are doing at a particular point in time. Yeah, so that is it. So that is the depth for the yoke. So the depth for the bodies, I'll be using 8 inches. I mark 8 inches. And for my upper chest line now, the upper chest line is 6 inches. I'll be using 6 inches as my upper chest line. I mark it. Let me just connect it with a pencil. So the next thing I will do now is to, on these points now, I mark here. So I want to get my neck and my sweetheart's neck now. I connect it this way. Then from here, I connect to my armhole using my French curve as well, just this way. This is the pattern drafting for our bustier with a net illusion yoke. So the next thing to do now is to cut it out. So I'll first of all cut out my yoke. So I cut out the bodies. So I blend this place before I cut it out. It's not supposed to be as sharp as this. So there is it. This is the yoke part. So mind you, as you are cutting out your fabric, ensure that 1/2 inch is added to the down part of the yoke, and the 1/2 inch is added to the upper part of the bodice, as you are using it to cut out your fabric. So on this side will be joined, we use 1/2 inch to join this side. So we will be using this scuba material to cut out the bodies, and this is the lining we'll be using. Then we'll be using this illusion net to cut out our yoke. So we want to make our back cut now, and I will be using this basic pattern for the back basic pattern. So I get my half length of 17 inches, and this is the bust point line 10 inches. We'll be using this to determine our dart. And then I've gotten my shoulder length of 7 inches, zipper allowance of 1/4. I get it up here, get it down here, and I roll it before I now begin to get my normal. Then I get my shoulder length of 7 inches. Then shoulder slope of 1 inch. The wideness of the back neck is 3 inches. Then I come down with 1 inch and I connect it. So I connect the shoulder slope to the wideness of my neck now. Then the next thing is that I get the midpoint of this armhole line. My armhole line is 7.5. I've come down with 1 inch as my shoulder slope. Then remaining 6.5 inches. Then I get the half of 6.5, which is 3/4. I mark it. Then I come in with just 1/4. Then I connect my armhole. Yeah. Then I begin to get my horizontal measurements. First of all, I get my bust span. The bust span we are working with, that is to nipple that we use in the front, is 4 inches. So we get our 4 inches on this line. We mark it. We get it down here on the waistline. We mark it. We connect it. Just like this. We connect it. Then on the waistline, we come to the left and right with half an inch. Half an inch. Then we on this bust point line, we come down by 1 inch. Then we connect from this, we connect to this end. Yeah. So the next thing is to get our horizontal measurement. And the bust we are working out with is 34. We divide 34 by 4, give us 8.5. So on this chest line, we get our 8.5. Then we use 1.5 as a seam allowance. Then on the waistline, we get the waist. The waist we are working with is 28. We divide it by 4, give us 7 inches. We get 7 inches here. Then we return 1 inch that we're having here as our dart. We return it here before we now get our seam allowance of 1.5. Then we connect from the bust, we connect to the waist, just this way. Then we shape our back by, on this line, we come out with 1/4 inch. Then we connect to the upper part of the bodice. We connect straight to the center back. So all we need to do now is that what we are having here, that is 1 inch. We return it here. We return it here, then we connect it to the bust, so that we won't have any shortage of fabric. So the next thing we want to do now is to get our yoke. And to do that, it depends on how low you want your yoke to be. For this project, we want my yoke to stop at I think I'm okay with 8.5. I mark 8.5 here. Then I use my pattern master even to connect from here. I connect to this end. Connect it this way. So this is my back yoke now. So what I just do is that I cut, this is the main bodice, I cut it out. So as I come down with 8.5. If you like, you can make yours to be 9 to 10, depends on how deep you want your yoke to be at the back, but I prefer mine this way. So this is the back yoke. I will still talk on this back yoke. Let me cut the main body. So for this dart, you just notch it. We're not cutting it out. You can, as a matter of fact, you can do it the way you want. If you don't want, if you are using stretchy fabric that you don't want even to create any dart at the back, all you need is to just cut this dart out. Then you just sellotape it and cut just this way. You just close the dart this way. You close it this way. So as it is, you can cut out, you can use it to cut out another pattern. Then you now use it to cut out your fabric. So as it is, you won't need any dart again at the back. You won't need to create any dart again. So it depends on you, but it's always good to do that for stretchy material that you are not using lining. That is for that. This is the back bodies, and this is the yoke. I say we need to do some things on the yoke. So let me quickly do that. This is the yoke. We are using net illusion for the back, so we don't need the zipper. The zipper allowance, we don't need it at the yoke area. So the zipper will be stopping on our main fabric. So for this, we are just going to create just little keyhole at that back. So, and to achieve that, on this zipper allowance line, as it is, you just take your French cuff, you just connect it this way. So you might decide to leave it straight or just create small keyhole there, just as it is. So I will now cut it out. Then this is what we use to cut out our back yoke. Then we use this to cut out our fabric. Now this is the pattern draft for the back. This is the yoke part. We'll be using net illusion to cut out this. Then I'll be using scooper fabric to cut out this. So let me go and do that, and you can see that I close up my dart here, so I won't bother to create any dart for the back. So if you want that at your own back, you don't need to do this close up. And another thing is that when you are cutting out your yoke, ensure that half an inch is added to the down part of the yoke. So you might not necessarily need to add anything to the main fabric, because by the time we add half an inch to the yoke, we'll be using cutter to join the two. So that half an inch will be shared by both yoke and the main fabric. Cutter. We use that to join it together. Now we have cut out our fabric, and half an inch has been added to the yoke parts. The same thing is done to the back cut. So this is the front cut. We have joined the dart area. We have done the same thing to the lining, and I want to bring it to your notice that I use this lining for video, just for video sake. If you are sewing it for a client, ensure that you use a stretchy fabric as your lining, like a lycra. So because you can't use the same scuba as your lining, it will be too heavy. So or use something like a lycra, light lycra to do your lining, so that both fabric will be stretchy. So the lining, we have cut out the lining and the fabric here too. So the next thing we want to do now is to go and join the yoke to the main fabric. So to achieve that, all you need to do, as it is now, you know, nude net, I mean the skin net does not really have a front or back, so we assume this is the right side of it. So when you want to join it to your fabric, you place it this way, ensuring that the center matches this. You know, it is quarter of an inch you want to use to join it together. So you can use something to hold this down. Then you now begin to join, ensuring that this center is here, leaving like quarter. So you now begin to join it this way. You join it. You first of all join the net to the main fabric with quarter of an inch. Go round like that, so to the end. So after joining the skin net to the main fabric, then you now place your lining. You place your lining this way and join the lining on it again. So after having done that, you will now open your lining. The lining will come to the back like this. Then you now top stitch on the lining. So that is what I want to go and do now. Even for the back, this is the back. This is the zipper area. This is the way it's going to be. The zipper allowance of 1 that we ensure that you leave that 1 inch seam allowance, zipper allowance, before you start joining your net. So your net will be joined this way. You place it this way, you join it, then you place your lining on it. This is the lining, so you can join it together, but make sure you start from the zipper area, leaving your 1 to 1/4 inches that you have left for your zipper allowance. So you can use your pin to hold it down first before you start joining it together with 1/4 of an inch. You sew everything, even including where the net does not reach. Make sure you sew everything, but just mind where you place your net. Don't place it where it's the area that's supposed to be for the zipper. You know, we are not fixing the zipper on the net. So this is our zipper allowance. So let your net as it enters, or better still, you can join it 1-1. If you can't join it together this way, join it 1-1. You can first of all join net and the fabric together, then you place your lining. You join your lining thereafter. So after joining our yoke, after fixing our yoke on the bodies, so the next thing to do is to join the side of your bodies. After joining the side, so you just cut out your 2 nets, even to you cut your sleeve, both sleeves. So after fixing your 2 nets as your sleeves on both as both sleeves, so if you like, you can just add rose as a decoration on your dress. I hope you have enjoyed this video. So make sure you like it, share with your friend, drop your comment on the comment section, and subscribe to this channel. And don't forget to join our corset online class. The registration is still on.